Hello, and welcome to I'm Too Busy. I'm Christina Flack, your host. I'm a celebrity makeup artist and CEO with a passion for all things beauty, wellness, and success. On this show, I'll take you on exciting journeys, sharing personal stories and insights from inspiring entrepreneurs. Together, we will explore manifestation, health, wellness, and the secrets to thriving in life and business. Let's jump in and get inspired. Welcome to I'm Too Busy. I am Christina Flack, and today's guest operates at the intersection of leadership, technology, and national defense. Mike LeBlanc is a decorated Marine Corps major who served 13 years, deployed 3 times, led 150 troops against ISIS, and later advised the Pentagon on economic and technology strategy. He is also my client. He also went to Harvard Business School. And graduated and is co-founder of Cobalt Robotics, a venture-backed company acquired in 2024. And he is now the co-founder of Foundation Future Industries, building autonomous systems for the Department of War. And last week, we had the privilege of shooting the cover of Time magazine together. A very fitting moment given how central AI and defense innovation have become in strapping the future of global security. Welcome, Mike. How are you?
Thank you, Christina. Doing well.
I'm glad you're here. So you have led 150 troops in combat against ISIS. What does leadership look like when lives are literally on the line?
Yeah, well, this has largely been the question of my adult life, is really figuring that out and bringing it to Silicon Valley. So, I think that a lot of people get caught up too much into tactical leadership. They think too much about what they're going to, how they're going to set the example for someone, or they kind of have these platitudes that they push themselves to. But what leadership really comes down to, especially in a combat zone, is a lot of decision making very fast.
Mhm.
And what you're honing is really your judgment over all of these things. You need to be able to see something, tell what matters about it, and be able to make very, very rapid decisions about them. And it's interesting to me because I find a lot of people in the civilian world, they don't like that rate of making decisions. But that when you're at your peak, it is people are coming up and showing you a new marketing thing that's going out, and you're saying, yeah, that looks good, or change it, let's try the background as red, or what happened to the earlier version, right? It's going to that, and then being able to handle a problem from, customer calls, and they go, oh, the boss saw the robot, this happened, this, and being able to know what to do with all of these situations. And so I always think that's really the key insight to leadership, is being able to determine what's essential and then make a decision about it.
What did those deployments teach you about decision making under pressure?
Uh, that any decision is better than no decision. You know,
That's true.
this was a really funny one. They do right from the beginning of the Marines. As soon as you're there, you're in your boot camp. I was an officer, but similar. And you have to run all of these little missions all through the woods, and they go guy after guy. And I watched. There was one that they had him setting up a defense, and the guy's plan was to like bring the enemy straight into his forces, and then he thought, like, once they're in our platoon, we'll kill them. That guy graduated. That guy became a Marine officer because he made a decision. It was the worst plan. That's what they said. The guys that they're saying it said this is the worst plan that we've ever seen in any of these missions. And yet he made a decision. There was another guy with me, an Ivy League guy, probably 6'2", very chiseled jaw, just this, and a great guy. But when he was in that position, he was too smart for his own good. And
Mm.
they would say, we need you to set up a defense. And he'd be sitting there and he'd be asking everybody, well, what do you think? Do we set him up on the flanks? Or are we going to well, how many guys could we put? And he's going through it over and over and over again. And he didn't make it through. Right. And to me, at the time, I thought that was nuts. But looking back, I go, yeah, give me that first guy. Give me the guy that said, come on in. The guy who
Right.
marches the platoon off the cliff, because I can teach you not to go off cliffs. right? That's a lot easier.
Right.
But not being able to achieve a decision, that's very hard to fix
You don't
because
have time to him and haw, I would
no.
imagine, when you're in combat.
And that's that's what I think in life, really. You have the immediate time pressure when you're in a combat zone. But really everybody has this going on in their lives at all time, and they don't realize it until a lot of time has passed, just how much they've let slip, just how much they haven't done, and they look at a review of themselves and they go, I don't know what I've really accomplished this year. It takes this, this force and this action and constant action and decision to really be able to carry out big things.
In combat, hesitation can cost lives, and in business, hesitation can cost opportunity. How do you evaluate risk today?
Yeah, well, I really like Jeff Bezos always on the one-way door or the two-way door, right? And what type of decision is it? So is this a door that you can only pass through once, and after you pass through the door, you can't get back through?
Mhm.
Or is it you can just walk right back through? And I think that, those two need to be handled very differently. So if you are, if you're going to do something that you can't take back, right? If you're going to announce a public partnership with someone or take on a large contract that you're then going to have to deliver on, right? Those are one-way doors that you need to do a lot of deliberation. You need to do a lot of thinking about these things. And that's where risk is really key to know what's
Mhm.
on. On a two-way door, risk should almost be ignored, right? Because you can just pop right back in. And I think that that's when I'm at my most successful and knocking the most stuff out, it really comes down to as many two-way doors as I can. It's a lot of small decisions that you can say, oh yeah, I'll take a burger and fries, and then you go, you know what, cancel that. I'm not gonna eat that. Give me a salad from somewhere. It's a two-way door, or you can
Right,
even just
right,
throw it away, right? But I think that that's the problem that most people run into is they think too much about risk in a two-way door, and so when you fret over every decision like that, you just you're
well, it's
under.
worrying, right? It's like constant worrying, and it's not,
Yes.
and which is a total waste of time. Thinking about something that could might possibly maybe happen, but 99.9% of the time never does. The
Right.
worrying, right?
Yes.
What is one misconception that civilians have about military leadership?
That it's rigid.
Mm,
This is the biggest one that I get is, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I tried getting a job anywhere that I could, got turned down everywhere. And I was trying for anywhere in Orange County, $60,000 a year. That was my criteria. Those are the things that it needed to be. And but people would bring me in for interviews and they would over and over ask these questions of, well, what if someone didn't do what you asked them to do? They're like fishing for me to go, well, I would freak out and I would start beating them and,
yeah.
do push-ups or things like that. The number of times that I had people make jokes about, drop and give them 20 was baffling. But that's really what was on people's mind
Yeah.
is that it's rigid. Whereas, really to be to be a military commander, to be a military leader, I mean, there is so much give and take. There's an old saying, what does a sergeant do when he wants to screw over his lieutenant? He follows his orders exactly, right? Like there's a ton that you need to motivate people, you need to win the people over, and there's just a lot of you're constantly making these decisions, just like in the civilian world of what to let go of. You tell somebody to do something, they don't do it, you go, eh, all right, I'm not going to get into them for that one versus another one that you're going to mark up. But rigidity, I don't know a place that rigid leadership is successful, and the military makes some of the most successful leaders in the world.
It's true. Did war change you permanently? And if so, how?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that it does everyone. Um, you know, I even think anybody that comes back from boot camp, almost everybody that I talk to in the military has this story where they come home and people go, "You're so different." Right? And it's been a couple months, it's been like 10 weeks, but everybody goes, "You're so different. I can't quite put my finger on it." And I always think that comes from in the military, you you have no place to hide. Boot camp especially. Like when we talk about accountability, everybody likes talking about accountability. It's like that sounds great. Accountability is so hard and uncomfortable to actually be held accountable for things. And that's what everyone has as they go through boot camp and they just enter just the military culture is, we there are no guardrails on the bathrooms, right? There's no like stall for a bathroom. There's when you shower, you're walking through in a serpentine style with 75 of your best friends. You just there's nowhere to hide anything. And I think that other people, when you're in the civilian world, you can hide all kinds of shame. You can have shameful binges. You can do all kinds of things that nobody really ever knows about, uh, that are all hurting you, but that you just go, oh, that's not going on. You can skip all kinds of projects and then say, oh, well, this came up or this came up, and everybody's very forgiving. But I think that all of those things hurt you. And so what you really realize is people that have gone through the military who have had that shame upon them, you're forever changed because you've cleaned up a lot. I mean, this is why
Mhm.
people like people with siblings, because the siblings usually like knock a bunch of this stuff out of you as you're growing up.
True.
My kids sleep in a room together. There's nowhere to hide. They all know all about the others. They make fun of them for the embarrassing parts. And, I know that we can always weigh in and be like, oh, well, that was really mean. But it's great for them. That's what the kids need. Like
It's true.
they don't need these little secrets that they get to let build up into these, terrible things that they're hiding from the world.
It's true. You've led in war zones, and now you're building a future of warfare through technology. What made you pursue Harvard Business School after the Marines?
Well, that really came from not being able to get a job. Through that process, I never that story doesn't have a happy ending where I found a job. I just couldn't find one, and
What were
it,
you looking to do? I mean, what would have been a great job for you?
uh, I have I applied at Tesla. There was a job that was ambassador to Amsterdam, and they were like setting up European operations, and they needed somebody to like go around to the European countries, which sounds like a great job to anybody, right?
Right.
So I applied for this, and they brought me into interview, and I was like, this is amazing. Like I'm gonna get this is like an incredible job.
Yeah.
They take me through, and I keep meeting more and more people, and at the end, they offered me a position on their factory line.
Oh my gosh.
But it didn't
Have
meet
you
my
met with Elon
60,000
since then? Have you
criteria.
spoken to him about this?
I did actually meet him, but no, I did not bring, I did not bring up my Tesla resume. But yeah, and that really made me, at the same time, we were visiting my wife's maid of honor, and she was in New York at the time. So we flew out to New York, and she was living in this gorgeous apartment. And we're like, Rena, where did you get all this money to get this apart? This is crazy. And
Yeah.
she was like, oh, I'm in investment banking now. And that was where we realized she'd gone back to Columbia, School of International and Public Affairs, and that was like this light bulb going off where she said, "You can do this. They love veterans. Like they will want you, and got us really sold on it. And that's how we went to Harvard.
Wow. Was the transition from structured military life to a venture backed startup chaos harder than combat in some ways?
You know, I kind of I had a very very rough time adapting my leadership and kind of figuring out who I was going to be. I had all of these mentors who had button down shirts tucked in and dress shoes on, and there was this new look of a business executive. And I took that to my first company, and that's how I would, walk around. I was very insistent on deadlines. I took everything from the Marine Corps. We would have I used to write out 5 paragraph orders. That's the like most standard military thing. But I would write these orders that say all the who, what, when, where, why. The enemy would be the customer. So we'd focus instead on the customer. But that's how I would go through. And you got all these kids in t-shirts and barely pulling themselves out of bed to come into work. And I'm like demanding all of these things. And I got my Excel sheets and I've got my 5 paragraph orders and and there was, we got a lot of traction through that. But yeah, it took me a while to find.
Find your new normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cobalt Robotics was backed by Sequoia Founders Fund and Crow 2 is
Code two.
Co
Yeah.
Co 2. What does it take to earn that level of investor confidence?
Well, I think, the classic is that people always talk about the team and the TAM, right? So you need to have these, here's why I can pull off this, and here's why it's a big vision. So if you go into it and you have a great resume, but you're like, I'm gonna get in the pencil business, they're looking at it and going, I don't think more people are buying pencils. I think that's like pretty limited. There aren't that many, like, how big could this really get? So they are, they're looking for that big vision and they're looking for the team. But, now in years of doing this, I've realized the timing is the biggest
Hmm.
component of all of those. You could have a weak team and even a weak market size as long as the timing is really good for
Right.
what you want to do. And that's, because now I've been doing this long enough to see other entrepreneurs that have started companies, raced up to 100 million in revenue or something like that, and then just crater out, very quickly. But they make good money in the middle. One guy that I know did that with COVID. Right when COVID came, he started all of those little stalls that they would do those COVID tests,
Yeah.
and the guy had nothing to do with anything medical. And I was like, so what? You were watching the news like everybody, but you, and he was like, knew they were going to be needing tests all over the place. So he's like, I just started to see how are they doing it, and then I realized they were going to use vendors, and so I just started doing that. And he was like, just figured out the places to rent it, figured out the things to piece. But that's really amazing. I think that speed of execution is where you really get that confidence from investors.
Right. When the company was acquired in 2024, what did that moment represent to you personally?
Uh, it was a chip on my shoulder, I suppose, is how it ended up feeling. Um,
Really?
we Yeah, we'd built it up much bigger. Uh, we ended up having a lot of robots replaced by generative AI, and we launched a generative AI product too that grew, but it made us much less money than the robots did. But yeah, we'd ended up selling for less than what our dreams were, and so I really left that and thought this is what's going to spur me on, right? Like that was the whole feeling was
Hmm.
we didn't adapt fast enough. We didn't make our decisions
Mm.
fast enough. In my opinion, we should have killed the robot at that company a long time before, because we knew that the camera analytics, right, the generative AI, we knew that it was coming, and we knew that it was going to eat all of our deals. But we kept launching robots and we kept doing our thing. But to me, that's a mistake I'll never make again. And two, that was just a real letdown that I kept going, I can do better than this. It's the person standing with the silver medal,
Hmm.
just angry and going, I know that I can do that, and I'm going to show everybody else that I can.
Now, with Foundation Future Industries, you're building autonomous systems for the Department of War. What does that actually mean for real life in real world terms? And tell me a little bit about how you met your partner.
Yeah, well, yeah. Let me start with Sankaet. So Sankaet Pathak is my co-founder. He had been wanting to start a humanoid company, and he'd been talking to all kinds of different people and talked to a mutual friend of ours, who's in defense. And when he talked to him, this guy Scott said, if you want robots in defense, you got to talk to Mike. So Sanket flew out to my house in Southern California, and we started talking about this. I was not interested at the beginning because I was like, I'm not doing hardware again. Hardware is just it's there's just too much. We had robots at Cobalt. We had hundreds of robots in 9 countries, right, on 4 continents. You were just all over the place. Every time zone was eating you alive. It was, and just the repairs and maintenance on these things. So I didn't really want to jump back in with him. But Sanket, kept saying, well, just, help me out on how would you think about this? How would you think about that? And so we kind of developed into this conversation. And I was on a call with GM, was one of my old customers, so I knew the guys over there really well. And I was just having a call with one of the guys and mentioned to him, I said, "Oh, well, you'll have to see. I've got a guy talking to me who wants to do humanoids." And that that executive then introduced me to the head of manufacturing in the US uh, for GM, the head of manufacturing in Mexico for GM, and the head of innovation for GM.
Oh,
And
wow.
we got those all very quickly. I brought Sanket into all those calls, and then we were kind of off to the races because it was like, wow, people are really looking for this. There's real demand for these things. Um,
Did that surprise you?
it did. Yeah, after doing, when you're making these robots and you're seeing them go out in the world, we used to replace security guards at Cobalt. There was no demand ever. Just nobody wanted these things. And you, you know, that's why we didn't have much competition because nobody really wanted them. Nobody wanted to do them. And they were such a hard sale. We were selling them for $100,000 per year per robot, which is what we sell our current foundation robots for. But we were part of security. We were part of a business that people don't care about. They just think, yeah, just hire whatever vendor and let me move on. They don't care much about their costs there. It's just not a place that people think about. With humanoids, we go exactly to, Toyota told me they were like, if we can make more cars, we can sell every car that we can make. They were like, that's where we're held up.
Wow.
We can speed that up, their revenue goes up. Everybody else, their costs also go down by using us. So when you're working on fundamental businesses like that, it's incredible how quickly they can move.
How close are we to fully autonomous defense systems?
Oh, I think we're there in many of them. Yeah,
Hmm.
this has been a funny thing that's been going on in the news with Anthropic and all kinds of discussions about what autonomous weapon systems are. But, drones have been developing, this past decade that we've been talking about them. They've gotten much better,
Hmm.
right? And so it's been incredible to see just how much they can do, how much they can follow. Uh, I think that where people start to get wary is in decision making, autonomous decision making. That's kind of the scary point is where people start to say, are we going to just send these robots out and they're going to kill somebody and then we go, oh, that was the wrong person, right? Which I think one, we're sending 19-year-olds out to do that, and that does happen
That's true.
already. And the other funny thing to me is, if I told you there was a weapon that couldn't see who it would kill, but anybody that it interacted with would die, right? And you didn't know when this was going to happen, but it would just do this through eternity. We'd go, that's an absolute horrible thing. That's a landmine. We have landmines. There are landmines all over the world
That's true.
right now, right? But those are autonomous weapons. They will automatically kill you when you walk over them,
Right.
but with absolutely no discernment. And I don't see a lot of people losing sleep over those ones.
That's true. What role will AI play in global security over the next decade?
I joined the military because I was reading Thucydides' History of the Peloponnesian War, and in there you have all of these generals, all of these statesmen that are all shaping history, right? They're all making the speeches that you're reading, and you get to see how the actions turned out and then what happens after them. And I thought, wow, there are real people that are directing history. And I said, I want to be one of those. That was that, and the Marines started to look like, well, that's a great path. I'll go there, I'll become a general, and I'll be leading history like this. That's what I wanted to do. And now, it's so interesting to start thinking about what role AI is going to play in making those decisions. Because right now, AI is a supplement. It's a tool that we're using. But it will end up being, that we're kind of on the sidelines with the AI doing most of the things.
Hmm.
So when I was in Afghanistan, we would go on patrols, and we might launch, a drone to do reconnaissance beforehand. It was very much a tool that we were using, but we were the show. I just got back from Ukraine earlier this month, and in Ukraine, it's the opposite. The operations are the robots. They plan that they are going to have their, kind of autonomous ATVs and their drones. That's what's going in to do the fighting.
Wow.
And the humans are there to reroute them, to fix them, and to be a kind of, last ditch effort in case anybody's trying to come over the line. But I think that's what's going to happen with AI on the global scale as well. Is right now it's very much a tool and a consultant for us, but we're going to see it making the majority of decisions, and we're kind of coming back in to go. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Is there an ethical line that you constantly think about when building defense technology?
Uh, Less than people would like me to. You know, I really, and I keep this behind me as a reminder of these all the time. This is bulletproof glass with a 50 caliber bullet through the center of it. I keep it here because that is technology that protected my life while I was in Afghanistan. We used to drive, so we'd drive these big, Humvee-like vehicles, but we'd go with the Afghans. The Afghans were in pickup trucks. When we got shot at, it would go ding, 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 and everybody go like, all right, well, everybody's okay. When they got shot through that, they died, right? And we saw that happen over and over again. And so to me, giving our troops the greatest technology that they can have that is going to keep them out of harm's way, that's going to keep mothers from having their sons have to go into combat. There's absolutely no question, except how many can I get? Right?
Right?
How fast? And so for me, this is, we are just trying to work this as hard as possible to make sure that, the other humanoid companies swore off this as a use case because they were scared of the Terminator movies. To me, is such a dereliction of the duty of shepherding a new technology is to say we're going to let China and Russia and whoever else develop these things, and we're not going to develop them. That's that's crazy talk. So I never
Mhm.
lose any sleep
Yeah,
thinking about
no.
how lethal we can make them.
Do you believe technology makes war less human or more precise?
Oh, that's interesting. It's funny. There's in Shakespeare, they have these conversations where they say that war was ruined by guns. And this is written in the 1400s, right? This is a long time ago. But that's what they're saying is that, oh, it used to be human and you could be a real warrior with, swords and bows and arrows, but now with these guns, these guns just make it not a real war at all anymore. And I think that's a timeless tradition of warriors is to think
Yeah.
their war is not the good one. I just think anybody that's going to it, there's just big cognitive dissonance between what you expect and what the reality is. And so, you know, will it make it more precise? It may, it will, over a long period of time, it certainly will. Um, but that's the hope is that it makes it less human. I think it's great when, while I was in Ukraine, Russia was targeting the like all the energy centers to turn out the power. So there was no power while I was there.
Hmm.
That's much better. It was freezing cold, but that's a much better thing to do than bomb a bunch of civilians and kill a bunch of people, right? We'd all much rather be cold and be forced, that they're all just trying to force us to do something. That's a better way to be forced. So if we can do that by destroying assets, by robots on robots in battles, all the better that you don't have to cause that human suffering. Make it economic suffering as much as possible to
Right.
push each other around.
What responsibility do founders in defense tech carry that other entrepreneurs don't?
I think that it's a rude awakening for a lot of people that get into it. If you haven't been in the government before, it's kind of a shocking system to start understanding. I worked at the Pentagon, and so I understood how this process kind of came together about bringing these technologies in. But people are constantly shocked at just how many buyers there are and how the buying works. It's all very strange. Um, and I think that people start to just jump in on whatever contracts they can get because they know that it's a nice space that investors like a lot right now. But they do end up with these ethical dilemmas, just like we saw with Anthropic, of
Mhm.
people starting to go, well, hold on, what is this being used for? I just watched Iron Man with my kids. That's kind of how Iron Man starts too, is him
Right.
realizing like, oh, these things are being used against our troops. And so I think that is it's the right place to be thinking. Uh, but trust does need to be given over to the military in this. And I always think, I was in, you know, I fought the war in Afghanistan and then against ISIS in Iraq. And I thought they were really stupid wars. I thought those were terrible wars. And I never thought that we should have gone into them. But that's me as a citizen. That's me as a voter. Once we're in it, we should win.
Right.
So don't do your policy by weakening the U.S. And I think that's something that defense founders have to start, fessing up to, is realizing they do have that power, and it's our job to give them what we can to go execute on their missions. But also, it's great when you can use a platform to speak to people and tell them, no, I think these are bad places to go. I don't think that's out of line for people to do at all.
Mhm. I've worked with you personally, and what strikes me is your discipline and your focus. And I absolutely adore your wife. She's amazing. You're a husband and a father of three. How do you shift from leading troops and companies to leading at home? And I know
Poorly.
you're going to say she's in charge.
It's such an interesting thing. I've started putting these things on my lists of I'm very big on doing the maze backwards, right? I like to say what's going to be the big thing we achieve. What's a big deal that we're going to get through? A robot's going to be working autonomously for 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. That was a big one. But then we thought, all right, well, how do you do that? And you work it backwards. And I've really had to start doing that with things with my kids, because otherwise that gets lost very easily. But I've realized about myself, I like I just like working. I've always liked working since I was a kid. And so with the kids, I've got sitting right here my Euclid's Elements is my geometry that I'm doing with my 7-year-old daughter. When we have a project to do together like that, like understanding Euclid and having her do, these propositions, you have to draw them up on my whiteboard and stuff. I'm just not happier doing anything, right? We all went and played basketball yesterday. Like when there's an activity, I'm in. And so I think that a lot of that is I think that a lot of people that I hear struggle with this try to go to work and get things done, and they like it. They don't like admitting how much they like their work. And then they go home and they go, I should be relaxed. I should, become a whole different person. And to me, it's no, you should bring those same traits, right?
Right.
Bring what's our goal? What are we doing here? And like, how are we going to get better? I do the drums with my youngest daughter. I teach her the drums, and we play all kinds of music together, and we learn new beats and all these things. I mean, it's work.
Yeah.
It's work, but I love to work, and I kind of get to bring them into my love of work too, and kind of share that passion with them.
This kind of is the same question, but maybe you want to go into it deeper. What kind of an example are you intentional about setting for your children?
Well, it's funny too. So I bring the kids with me. I travel all the time. I bring the kids with me on lots of trips, and I didn't have any of my kids with me when we were doing time, but
No.
I just had Michael, my 8-year-old, up with me this week. Brought him to the office, and like that time, I gave him a scavenger hunt. I wrote out 10 things that for him to do in the office. And people are nice around the office to me and to my kid. So it was like assemble a part of the robot. It
Oh,
was
wow.
it was
What
like
a dream for a kid.
yeah, he had a bunch of like robot parts that he had to organize. There were just all of these different things that I had him do. One of them was just learn something from Sankaet. So Sankaet walked around with him for like half an hour, teaching him about actuators and stuff.
Oh my
And
God, that's so cool.
But that kind of stuff is so cool. And in the meantime, I just do my thing. I just focus on what I'm doing, and I always think that's how I learned from my parents was watching them work, watch them have conversations. You pick it all up.
Has your definition of success changed in the last 10 years?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, well, 10 years ago, I had no money. So money and success were the exact were the exact same thing. Um, I can remember people used to go around at Harvard and they'd say, why are you here? Why did you come to Harvard? And everybody would have some version of, I want to have an impact. I want to have an impact on the world. And it came around to me on this thing, and I said, if you guys want to have an impact, go become a kindergarten teacher or a nurse or a police officer. I was like, you know, what you are going to go do, be in some C-suite somewhere or be some consultant. They're like all the things that we go on to do. Those are not life-changing roles where people go, oh, I couldn't have done it without my senator. My whole life would have been different if it weren't for the CFO of this random company in my area. Like that's not where you do it. And so I was like, I'm here to make money. That's why I came. That's why you go to Harvard Business
Yeah, you're being actually honest. You're like being genuine, right?
I'm
Everyone's
like,
there for the same reason. They're just
yeah,
not
they are.
saying the truth.
And then I think that's what's the best part about making money is that you check that box and then you get to go, now what? And I think that it's a scary question that a lot of people struggle with when they make money because they expected it to be like, big victory party. And there are a couple months that people like to do their travel and buy their cars and do their thing. But there is always the question then of, well, what now? If it's not that anymore, what do I do with my life? What is my life going to add up to? What do I want it to add up to? And I think that's a really exciting territory to be in.
With everything on your plate, how do you avoid burnout and what keeps you grounded?
You know, marriage will keep you nice and grounded.
And those
Right.
three babies.
And those three babies. Um, yeah, it's funny to me because I think that people get burned out not from working hard, but from doing work that they don't like.
I totally agree.
And this, I mean, this goes back to my point about what it's like to go through boot camp, what it's like to, join the military, is you do just have this accountability where you have to fess up to everything. People don't have those habits of fessing up with what they don't like about their situation. And there's
Mhm.
this huge blocking that goes on, even though they know they hate their job, but they justify it. Well, I don't like it, but it gives me a lot of time for this, which I do
Right.
love. Or they'll do all these rationalizations. Well, this is just what I deserve. Obviously, the market spoke, and this is where I landed. This is how musical chair goes. People have all these ways of talking themselves into things, but they'll do it for decades. That's what I think leads to burnout. Is
I agree.
when people are just doing something and they're convincing themselves it's the exhaustion of the lie. They
Oh
they
my God, that's so true.
they just cannot take it anymore, but they don't know. And so they go, it's because they're pushing me too hard to work. I I work all the time, right? I'm always, like I say, when I'm with my kids, we're working, we're doing something. Like
Right, right, right.
that's not because I have some great energy profile or, because I don't get tired like other people or anything like that. It's because that invigorates me. That's the part that makes me, it would never burn me out. It's the part that makes me excited.
Right, right. I always told my kids, figure out what you love doing so much that you would do it for free and then figure out how to get paid. Because
Yeah.
everything that we're all doing takes so much more time, money, and effort than we had ever anticipated. But if you're enjoying the process, you aren't going to get burnt out.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to start doing some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Oh no, we're gonna test my fast decision.
Yes,
I'm sitting
yes,
here
yes.
going,
Your fast decision making. Okay. Where's your happy place?
oh, in my bed with my wife.
Aw. How important is self-care and what are your favorite things from a dietary and workout perspective?
Oh, extremely. If you don't have it, you don't have anything else. And now I'm following this guy on Instagram, this sober fitness guy, but
Sober fitness guy.
he's got fitness dailies, just some easy exercise that you're going to do every single day. And
Uh-huh.
I've been doing that, and it's kind of a replacement for coffee. I still have my coffee in the morning, but it's what gets me started in the day. I can't imagine going without something like that.
I love that. What would people be surprised to know about you?
uh, I think that people would be very surprised to see me interact with my wife and daughters, and to see just how much of a pushover I am with them. And I like to be tricked. I think that's what people don't understand about men is that men know that they're getting tricked and they like it.
What do you do when your day isn't flowing?
I get to a list. GTAL, as my dad would always say. My dad always get to a list. I make a list each day on a big sketchbook of and it's titled 10 things I don't want to do today. And I just write out, they can be really small things that I don't want to do. It could be texting somebody back that I just don't want to interact with, or
Yeah.
or it could be a big hard problem. It can be, one of my ones on my list today is a big Excel thing that I have to do, and it's like nightmarish to me. But I get to a list and I take out whatever those things are, business or personal, and I handle them because as soon as I do that, my mind rewards me with great things in the future.
Oh, I love that. Discipline or motivation?
Oh, discipline. Yeah, 100%. I really think that, you know, we had a deal. Sorry, these are rapid fire, Christina. I'm going
No,
on some
no,
I always
no, no.
do.
You just go. You go.
We had we had a deal that had kind of been falling through because I just didn't really interact with them.
Hmm.
You just kind of get busy with other things, and it was dying off. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I've got to get in this. So I printed out a calendar on Excel and I said, I'm going to do something on this deal. It could be a text to one of the people. It could be a huge brainstorming session. We could create a product for them. It could be anything, but I'm going to do something every day for 30 days. And I give myself a big X on the calendar when I got it. So I hung that on the wall. I started that. 15 days in, we had a contract with them,
Wow.
like a signed full contract. And that it just happened so much faster. But I really think consistency is just it's amazing. It's a
That's
total
true.
unlock. It's the biggest
Yeah,
lever in the world.
100%. Morning workout or night workout?
Night workout. I know everybody's so cool. They want to work out at 4 a.m.
I, yeah,
That's not how my body works. That's not like I I don't like it.
no, no. You've done enough things in life that are challenging. You don't need to do that.
Yeah.
AI excites you or worries you?
Uh, I'm more indifferent to AI. I
Yeah.
think it's yeah, I think it excites me. I think it's the first technology that we've really had in my lifetime that'll actually change something.
Oh,
It's
definitely.
not going to change things as much as electricity, but but it's pretty good. I think sewers and electricity were a lot better.
Coffee or a cold plunge?
Oh, coffee,
I
all
knew
day.
you were going to say that. One leadership trait every CEO needs.
Initiative.
Oh, good one. A book every young leader should read.
Oh, every What if anger is the answer comes out August 25th, my book.
Oh my God. How
Shameless
exciting.
plug.
When are we going to do the cover? When are we going to do your photo for that?
Oh, I've got a cool cover of me as a bust. And
Oh,
so
cool.
it's like half monstrous and half
Oh,
not.
I love it. What is the hardest lesson you've ever learned?
Oof. This is a rapid fire. The
You're like, what a
hardest lesson.
nightmare.
Uh, I guess that uh, I mean, it's overcoming grief for sure. I'm trying to think about what the lesson is, uh, other than survive it. But it's
Right.
yeah, that's it. Actually, you know what? I have a lesson that I teach my kids that's associated to this one.
Okay.
There's no such thing as a bad genre, only bad stories. And I think
Oh,
like when someone dies, I hate the genre, right? It's so sad. If that were a movie, I hate movies about that. I think that that's so sad. But every genre can be good with the right story. And so how you go through something is what really dictates whether it's going to be beautiful or not.
You should definitely watch that episode of that podcast that we were talking about
Oh yeah,
earlier.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy that. Sorry, that's a separate thing.
Oh, I like
Okay.
that.
If you weren't in defense tech, what would you be doing
Oh, if I weren't in defense tech,
besides working for Tesla? Go on.
yeah, I wanted to start a media company.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, Sharice, my wife canceled that, but that was originally what I wanted to do. I wanted to be the new Walt Disney.
Oh my God. Well, you never know. After this, you might.
That's true.
You never know. Legacy in one word.
uh, Legacy is one word.
Yeah, that's true.
uh, yeah, but nobility.
Nice. That's a good one. When life feels overwhelming, you remind yourself what?
Uh, that I am someone's dad.
Oh, that's sweet. What have I not asked you that you'd like to share today?
Oh man, I know. What have we not gone through?
We've gone through everything.
um, yeah, I think we've covered all the main stops. I will, additionally add, I'm so excited about my book coming out. That
That
is
is exciting.
that
That's
I always
huge.
push. This was a labor of love. This was the one that I would wake up at 4 a.m. for because those were the hours
Wow.
while my kids were little that I would wake up and I would have from 4 or 5 in the morning to 8 a.m. That was fair. My wife said, like, I will take care of the kids. I will handle everything in there, and I got to go out to our guest house and work on it. For years I did that, and it's so cool to have that now coming out. I think that I think that it's something that everybody should do, but I'm very verbal. But it's the way that it makes you articulate your thoughts, the way it really makes you go through things
And
is
get really clear. I
absolutely,
mean, I
yeah.
guess that gets a lot of clarity, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, congratulations on your book. I'm so excited. I'm so proud of you. I can't wait to work with you again. It's just such a pleasure. I'm just so honored that you took the time to spend with me today. I want to thank you not only for your service, but for continuing to lead at the highest levels in both innovation and integrity. If you enjoyed today's conversation, subscribe, share, leave a review. We bring you leaders across industries who are shaping the future because success leaves clues. I am Christina Flack, and no matter how full life gets, we're all a little too busy. And I'll see you next week. Thank you.